Hi boys and girls, it's time for Appleblossom the Possum. We are getting very close to finishing this book and we'll start a new book very soon. But today we're on chapter 33, page 241. Appleblossom sighs. Two things are certain. Being a friend to a monster is a lot of work, and nighttime is so much easier than daytime. She has spent hours with the small people, who make sounds that Appleblossom can't understand. At one point, the people slipped Appleblossom into a strange sack and traveled with her outside. Appleblossom believed it might be her chance for freedom, but it wasn't. Instead, the mini monster took one of the small screens that people hold in their hands and sometimes hold to their heads, and she aimed it right at Appleblossom. But before Appleblossom could panic, whatever was happening was over and the people had returned her to her sack. Now she is back in the house, in the monster's room. The dog is still just on the other side of the wood barrier, seemingly waiting for an opportunity to rip her head right off her body. Finally, darkness arrives. It feels to Appleblossom as if the start of a new night holds some kind of promise. The littlest people looks happy, but tired as she carries Appleblossom into the area with the water chair and the empty white pond. She places soft things that she takes from her sleeping nest into the empty pond, and then she very carefully sets Appleblossom. "Good night, my possum pal," she says. "You sleep here in the tub. Tomorrow will be all kinds of new fun." She then shuts the door and goes to her nest. Or at least that's what Appleblossom thinks she goes. She can't see. Even though Appleblossom ate grapes and cheese and crispy sesame crackers, she knows now that she would take a dried out worm, a rotten apple, and a handful of caterpillars any day of the week for her freedom. The littlest people is kind, but being a prisoner in a monster house is not the way Appleblossom wants to spend her life. It doesn't take long before she can hear the sound through the closed door of the little monster breathing in a slow way that means she's sleeping. Mercy! Appleblossom pulls herself up and looks around. There has to be a way out. Above she can see a silver of the moon shining down through the clear opening. How she yearns to be out in the world. She opens her mouth and all she can manage is, "Antonio, Amulets." But she knows it's useless. They will never hear her. She looks upwards and whispers, "Mama, I'm stuck here. Mama? Ma?" But luck isn't on her side, and the world is silent. Chapter 34, page 245. Antonio and Amulet are relieved that Mama knows an easier way down than the metal stairs. It turns out there's a drain pipe that runs along the side of the tall structure. It isn't affixed directly to the wall, and so it's easy to squeeze a possum's body between the bricks and the pipe, meaning there is no way to fall. Big Paw snorts at the idea of using this and takes the stairs anyway. "Maybe," Amulet says to Antonio, "his belly is too big to fit." The trip back to the old neighborhood is so much shorter than the time it took to get to the city. "It's always quicker when you know where you're going," Antonio whispers to Amulet. Before they realize it, they are outside the house where Appleblossom fell down the chimney. The four possums gather together behind a bush and stare up at the imposing structure. Mama Possum's nose twitches and she shuts her eyes. She seems to be thinking hard. Antonio and Amulet stay quiet, but Big Boss balls his head into a fist and strikes a pose and shouts, "By heaven, I will tear them joint by joint and strew this hungry yard with their limbs. The time and my intents are savage, wild, and more fierce." Mama Possum managed a look in his direction. "Romeo and Juliet, Act 5, Scene 3. Now sit down." Big Paws takes a bow and returns to a crouch. Mama Possum focuses on the house. They have a dog. I see a red ball, and I smell the monster. This is a very dangerous situation. Big Paw stares out at the grassy yard and curls his tightly clenched fist. A dog? Well, that's a different situation. We've got no chance against a dog. Mama Possum's nostrils flare and her eyes grow hard. It's not a nice look, but it seems to change Big Possum's mind, because he says, "New idea. We enter down the chimney and hope for the best. Or we send one of our little ones here inside as a scout to report on the situation." Antonio and Amulet edge closer to their mother. "That sounds like an awful plan." Fortunately, Mama Possum agrees. "The way is from the ground. Houses have air vents. We go under the structure and we go in together." Big Boss turns to Antonio and Amulet. "The secret to a good relationship is to listen to your wife and agree with whatever possibly possible." He then spins around and gives Mama Possum a smile, but she's already moving. It turns out that the house has several openings just above the ground level. They are covered by metal wire. Mama points at a vent and says, "They call these their crawl space, but don't worry, they almost never go down underneath their house to crawl. They just want to be able to. It's not clear why." Antonio has thought, monsters crawl when they are young. Maybe they maintain a romantic attachment to the idea. Mama Possum raises an eyebrow of reflection and then issues a command. "Big Poss, use your teeth to chew through a wire." Big Poss makes a "why me" face, but Mama Possum speaks again before he can object. "Your teeth are already a disaster." Big Poss grunts and places his snout alongside the wire. He angles his head so that his jaw can get a good grip on the mesh. He then snaps his teeth and starts to work. The grinding makes an awful sound, and Antonio and Amulet have put their fingers in their ears. But it doesn't take long before their father has gnawed a hole into the metal weave. From there, Mama Possum and Big Poss bend back the wires. There is now an opening. Mama manages to squeeze in. Antonio and Amulet follow, and then Big Boss tries to enter. He doesn't fit. Mama issues instructions. "Go back and help your father." So Antonio and Amulet return outside. They push on Big Poss's backside while Mama Possum pulls his arms. It takes a lot of effort, but finally Big Poss finally makes it through the opening. They are all four inside the monster's house. Under other circumstances, the crawl space might be a place for thrills, but right now it's creepy. The first thing they all see is a rat skeleton covered in layers of dusty cobwebs. Overhead is a maze of pipe and wires. Mama Possum leads the way. She keeps her nose low to the ground and uses her tail to swish away spider webs as she travels. The air is stale, in a way that suggests mildew and mold have found the perfect home. Big Poss is the first to say it. "This place stinks, and I don't mean stinks like garbage or a pile of rotten leaves. I mean stinks like monsters." Amulet slows. He thinks about turning around and leaving. He's just about ready to shout, "I'll wait for you outside," when it's too late. They have gone too far, and he's more afraid to go back by himself than he is to follow his family. What a predicament. After a series of twists and turns, Mama Possum finds what she's searching for. Okay, this is it. Big Poss and Antonio and Amulet gather around. Mama Possum stares up at the large pipe that disappears into the low ceiling. This goes to the monster's heat box, and the heat box has long tunnels that lead around the house. We get to the heat box, then Big Boss will use his teeth to rip open one of the tunnels, and then we'll travel through the tunnels to find Appleblossom. Big Boss turns to his two sons. How does she know these things? But he isn't asking a question, he's making a comment, and he sounds impressed. Big Poss follows Mama Possum's instructions, and it isn't long before the wood is chipped around the pipe. Minutes later, just as Mama Possum said, they are inside a tunnel and moving through the walls of the house. Chapter 35, page 253. Appleblossom stares up at the night sky. The monsters are all asleep, but she is nocturnal. She shuts her eyes and her mind wanders. She hears her mother's voice so far away, yet so present and so distinctive, calling her name. "Appleblossom!" She tries to make the voice inside her head go away, but again she hears it. "Appleblossom!" Her mother's voice is more insistent now. It keeps calling to her. "Appleblossom!" This is torture. Mama's voice continues to play tricks on her mind, and then she hears another voice. It belongs to Antonio. Appleblossom, where are you? She puts her hands to her ears and sticks her fingers in her ears. The voices are now harder to hear, but they haven't gone away. Stop, she shouts. But the stop is some kind of go, because now she hears a new, louder voice. That's her. She knows that voice. It's Amlet. Appleblossom opens her eyes. Now another sound is in the mix. She hears movement coming from the wall. And then she hears a deep voice say, come to Papa. And then Mama again. She's never even met you. And then she'll know her Papa when she sees her Papa. Appleblossom bolts right upright as she squeals, Mama, Mama, I'm here. And that's where we end today, boys and girls. We will start chapter 36 on Monday. And I hope you guys are enjoying this book, but we'll have to wait and see till Monday if Appleblossom is able to get out of the monster's house. Have a great day.